If you want to support the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you. Hey, what's going on, guys? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video. And in this one, I've got my completed Joker build. And I know this is a little while coming. I didn't get this out as fast as I would like, but I really wanted to be thorough, try a couple of different builds, and really come at you guys with what I believe is the best current build for the Joker, and this is what I have landed on. This build you'll see in the gameplay, which you can certainly skip to ahead. It'll be timestamped in the video if you want, but I think you'll see this build is absolutely lethal. It absolutely plays itself, and I don't see myself really changing from this exact setup. From where I am right in the high 70s in mastery right now, this can go all the way to 200, no problem. I have no doubt in my mind. So that's what I will be doing before the season is over. But I'm going to run through it with you guys. I'm going to tell you kind of why I'm using each piece that I'm using. Go over the talent tree briefly, because the talent tree kind of builds itself with this. And then I'll, like I said, leave you with some gameplay. Before we jump into it, be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Like the video as well for more endgame Suicide Squad content, but let's jump right into it. So this build is really based around two things. One is your traversal attack, and one is your grenade. And really, the way the seasonal mods are this season, I don't love them, but basically, when you poison enemies, they essentially lose just about every mod that gives them a bonus, and they end up taking more damage. So really, the name of the game is spreading around poison as much as you can. Once enemies are poisoned, they're basically paper mache. You can rip right through them. It doesn't really matter. So you definitely want to be able to spread poison as hard and fast as possible. And Joker is able to do that quite easily. All right. So really, this is a Scarecrow tier 2 set. So we're using 3 pieces of Scarecrow tier 2. We're using a weapon, which we don't actually ever fire this weapon, so it's just there as a stat stick. We use a Master Confrontation Shield, and we use a Phobophobia Lucky Charm. And if you don't already know, or just as a refresher, what the tier 2 Joker set does is each poisoned enemy hit with a grenade gives you a stack of Impending Terror. Impending Terror decreases the damage you take from poisoned enemies by 10% for 60 seconds. Impending Terror stacks 5 times. It also further reduces the damage taken by poisoned enemies this season by 10%. 2-piece is once Impending Terror reaches 5 stacks, trigger a stack of Embracing Terror, which increases your grenade damage by 50% for 60 seconds. That stacks 5 times. And killing an enemy gives you immediately 2 stacks of that Embracing Terror. Okay. And then at tier 3, once Embracing Terror reaches 5 stacks, you trigger Shaped by Terror, which increases the damage you deal to poison enemies by 500% for 60 seconds. Okay. So, and it also increases your grenade capacity by 2 just passively as well. So realistically, we're going to be throwing so many grenades in this build that we're going to have 5 stacks of Impending Terror, 5 stacks of Embracing Terror, and 1 stack of Shaped by Terror up all the time. So effectively, we're getting we're effectively getting 5 instances of 20% damage reduction. We're getting 250% bonus damage to poisoned enemies, or just, I'm sorry, grenade damage. And then we're getting 500% bonus damage to poisoned enemies. So total about 750% more damage and 5 stacks of 20% damage reduction. So really a nice balance of grenade damage, damage to poison, and a little survivability in there as well. All right. And then what all the kind of the other pieces that we're using a Dr. Maru's poison injector. This will be our main gun that we'll be firing. Now, couple of things with this. We're really not firing our gun too much. So you'll notice the perks I have on here: crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and traversal attack resource on critical hits. We really want to have that traversal attack. But what we're really using this for is the villain synergy. Now, what this villain synergy does is enemies you afflict now take 100% more damage and also become poisoned while afflicted. So affliction, of course, as you may or may not know, is any other element other than poison. So the fire, lightning, deep freeze, or craze are all affliction. So if you, in this case, Joker's build, we're using pretty much a full fire build, right? We're using everything that can set things on fire. Anytime an enemy gets set on fire, they also become poisoned. So if you really remember one thing from this video and from this build as you try to build it yourself, this is the most important thing. Some of the rest of the stuff can be tweaked a little bit. I think it's perfect the way it is, but if you want to kind of make your own kind of spin off of this Joker build, this is the one thing that has to stay consistent, because you're going to be able to burn and spread burn everywhere, absolutely everywhere with this build. So it's absolutely critical that you're using this Dr. Poison Scarecrow mixture here, this villain synergy, that anytime, just remember in your head, if they're burning, they're also poisoned, period, full stop, right? So with that in mind, now you can probably see, if you've played Joker already, or you'll see when we get through the talent tree, why that's so good, because we're able to spread that burn with Joker so easily across all enemies that poison is basically a non-issue. So we're not really using the gun for damage. We do shoot it a little bit, but we're mostly just worried about kind of getting that traversal attack resource back. The other thing I'll just show you really quick while I'm here, another way for us to spread poison is if I go to Joker's talent. So there's a perk that's a little bit bugged, and it is this one right here, Top Banana. So I know my chair's blocking it, but it's the bottom. It's this one right here. It's the bottom left, very far left, 40% combo. So transforms Prankster into Top Banana. This requires 40%, 40 combo or higher, increases firearm damage by 75%, and causes crit hits to burn enemies. Now, that's the part that's bugged. And if you're from Rocksteady and you're watching this, you didn't hear it from me. But the reason this is bugged is that you do not have to be at 40 combo for crit hits to burn enemies, and I'll demonstrate that right now. So you'll see I'm in the base, I have no combo currently, but if I hit a guy with a crit, he does burn. And just to show you that I don't have anything funny going on, if I hit him with not a crit, he doesn't burn, right? But then I hit with a crit, and they do burn, all right? And that's at 0 combo. So just a little tidbit there. So we'll go through the talent tree a little more detail, but that particular perk, this one right here, just make sure you have that, because that will allow you to spread burn quite a bit more easily with your gun. You don't have to be at 40 combo or anything like that. And be able to get all the bonuses attributed. And there's more than just the poison. So this is the most important, just making sure that anything that's burning is also poisoned. That is like 90% of the build right there, if I'm honest. At least that part basically trivializes all of the seasonal mods in the game. You literally don't even have to worry about any of the seasonal mods this season. Just as long as everything's poisoned before you actually start trying to do damage to it, you're good. So as soon as you see a burning symbol over an enemy's head, you know you're green lit to blow them away, right? Coming over here, now there are a few pieces of gear that you probably did not think of using in your Joker build, because some of them are actually from the previous season. But we're using the Two Faces Persuader. This is not mandatory. You can kind of use whatever you want in this slot. I find that this is just better than the other one from the season, the Mad Hatter's one. I don't think the Mad Hatter's flail really does anything. Not that the Two-Faced Persuader is super great. We really don't do too much with it. We don't, if you'll see from the gameplay, we're in the air all the time. We really don't we really don't melee too much. We do suicide strike a little bit, and that's why this is probably a little bit better, because we do get this bonus from the suicide strikes, the Dread and Mayhem, and then we do also get this one here, the True Face of Fury. You'll probably remember this from last season. Harvesting enemies have a 100% chance of dropping a grenade and increase grenade damage by 100 for 20 seconds. Because we're spreading a lot of burn, that makes enemies immune to shield harvest, so we're not shield harvesting too much. If I'm honest, the melee slot here is probably the least important slot. I'll say definitely the least important slot. But that being said, there's really no good pieces here. So in my opinion, the Two-Face Persuader is the best to use. And then I know I skipped over this quick. I'm just using the tier 2 Creeping Dread. Doesn't have to be the Creeping Dread. I think there's other weapons that are part of the tier 2. We literally never fire this weapon. That's why it's not even, eliteed. It's literally just there as a stat stick, and the only stat that actually matters is that 50% damage to infused enemies, just because that's a global modifier. It's not tied to just the weapon, but this weapon stays stowed away. We literally never fire it over the Dr. Maru's injector, okay? And then coming down here, we're actually using a Rain of Bane grenade. That's right, the Rain of Bane is back for this build. And I have to say, I do think it is the best in slot grenade. So the way I have mine rolled is 18% explosion radius, 2% shield regenerated for each enemy hit with a grenade, and 3% traversal attack resource for each enemy hit with a grenade. I gotta be honest, I think this is the best. It is, if you remember from using this last season, it is a cluster grenade, all right? So anything that revolves around hitting an enemy with a grenade is exponential, right? Is exponential. So you'll notice our traversal attack comes back very quickly. Our shield is always topped off. And because it's a Bane set, we do get the one-piece Bane bonus. So we get the 4% more damage to an enemy for each 1% of health that they're missing. That is an absolutely massive buff. You probably remember it from last season. We don't care about the tier 2 or the 2-piece or the 3-piece bonus because we're not crazing enemies. We're not worried about any of that. We're really just worried about that 4% for each 1% of health they're missing. That is a huge, huge damage buff just from being able to use this grenade. And if I'm honest, the grenade itself is very powerful, even just off the bat. Even without any buffs to the grenade, we're still able to get things like, the tier 1 bonus, like I said, the tier 2 bonus off of Scarecrow. We're able to get those all very high. You'll notice our grenade damage is absolutely through the moon with this thing. All right, especially being a master version, right? And it allows us to get a couple of villain synergies, like I said. So this is really the grenade to have. You've probably seen other builds, and maybe you're even using the polka dot grenade, right? The this one here. No, not that one. I might not even have. I might have deleted it. Yeah, I deleted all of them. But the polka dot grenade. The thing about the polka dot man grenade is it's probably the best grenade this season for every character that's not Joker. And it's extremely good on Harley Quinn because she's able to kind of spawn extra grenades based on enemies hit, things like that. And it is the only grenade that applies poison intrinsically on grenade hit. All right, it's a chance to, but it's a high chance, right? And you're throwing grenades. If you're throwing grenades nonstop with the polka dot grenade, you're going to be applying poison. That's why it's such a good grenade this season. If I'm being honest, the grenade itself is pretty meh. Aside from the fact that it applies poison, I find that the Rain of Bane as a cluster grenade is actually much more powerful than the polka dot grenade. And the reason it's better on Joker, again, not to jump too much back and forth from these talent trees, but it's for this reason right here. Dramatic irony. Being airborne for 5 seconds causes your next grenade to burn enemies. You'll see from the gameplay, we are always airborne. We're airborne 100% of the time. So, it's really every grenade we throw is going to be burning enemies. And remember the synergy that if they're burning, they are also poisoned, okay? It's important to remember that because we don't need the polka dot grenade to apply poison for us. We do it ourselves by throwing this grenade, having the grenade burn enemies, and then they in turn become poisoned because of this villain synergy. So you'll see how it all works through in the gameplay, and you'll just see how the fire is spreading and just everything is going fucking crazy. So this is definitely the grenade, in my opinion, for this build, best in slot. All right. So moving over, the confrontation, nothing too crazy here, just crit hit chance, more traversal attack, resource generation, and electrified resistance. Now, I'll speak on that for just a second. You'll see my live wire bolt resistance is exactly 100 right now. This is just personal preference, but especially when you start getting into the higher mastery levels and there's literally snipers everywhere you look, this becomes extremely important. It's really, really important to have high electric resistance. Some people will probably just try to say, oh, why are you using electric resistance? You could just put more damage in that slot. For me, our damage is absolutely fine. It's really the defensive stuff that we need to worry about, especially because of how much this build relies on being up in the air and traversal attacks. Having that 100% electrified resistance is huge. Now, it doesn't mean you can't get electrified, but with 100% resistance, if you do get electrified, it literally lasts probably a fraction of a second. You'll be back in the air before you even hit the ground. All right. So that's really it. And just a little more resource regeneration. Nothing too crazy here. You obviously want a master version just for the actual boost in capacity, but otherwise nothing too crazy here. The Scarecrow perk on this doesn't really even matter too much at all. All right, here is another puppy from last season that you probably weren't even thinking about, and you'd actually have to go back to last season to get it on Joker, and that is the Turtles Still Force Conduit. All right, this thing is still the absolute stones. All right, there is not a better traversal slot piece for any character anywhere that is better than this one right now in the game. They came out with a new, now there's some legendary ones that are a little gagath, and there is a new one, I think it's Dr. Psycho, that has a villain synergy. If I'm being honest, that villain synergy sucks. That piece sucks. You don't want it. You want the Turtle Still Force Conduit. If you don't remember or you're new, basically what this does is, as long as you're continuously moving, as long as your character is moving, you're going to get a 250% global damage buff. All right, absolutely the best damage buff to have. Completely blows any other traversal mod out of the water. For my mods, I have 10% damage to grunts, a little more traversal attack resource, and then traversal attack on burning enemies. All right. And you might be wondering to yourself, why are you so big on traversal attacks? Why does it matter, right? Why do you have it on your grenade? You have it on your crit hits from your gun, right? You got the traversal attack for each enemy hit with the grenade. Well, I'll tell you why. And the reason is right, I think it's over, it's one of these. Well, if I find it, I'll let you know. I should have probably looked at this before I started the video. No. Well, it's one of them. It's one of these perks, and that is basically that your traversal, your razzle dazzle attack. I think it's on the right side, right? Am I tripping here? Oh, burning enemies. It's literally, I thought it was the 30 plus. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm such an idiot. I knew it was at 30 plus. I don't know why I didn't just go to the 30 plus row. At 30 combo or higher, your traversal attack burns enemies. Straight up, right? So, sorry it took so long to find that, but basically, as long as you're at 30 combo or higher, if you get really high up in the air and you spam, you hit your traversal attack, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in the gameplay. You hit your traversal attack, it can cover a very wide amount of the map, very, very wide area of the map. And it burns everyone. And remember, if they're burning, they're also poisoned, all right? So that's why that's so huge. And we get it back, when we're throwing grenades, we're getting our traversal attack back, we're spamming more traversal attack, and every time you do use your traversal attack, it actually resets Joker's ability to stay up in the air, right? So you know how when you hold L1 and then you jump, you get propelled up in the air. You can do that 2 times. When you use your traversal attack, it actually resets that, so you can use it 2 more times. We're going to be getting our traversal attack back faster than we can even hit the ground, and we're going to be able to go even higher up in the air and just use that traversal attack kind of all over the place, right? So we're going to be spreading burn, we're going to be doing all that, we're going to be moving, we're going to be up in the air, right, so that our grenade also burns, and just the whole thing just works together so well. All right, so there is no villain synergy on this, and I will admit, you probably, if you're sly, you probably caught that this is not a master version. That's just a personal thing. I literally just haven't had the fortitude to grind the old season with Joker to try to get a Master Turtles Steel Force conduit. Obviously, it exists. So if you're really looking to min-max this build to its entirety, go back and try to get a Master version. That will be a big damage boost overall. And I will eventually get it once the Mastery levels start getting, a little sticky. But for right now, I mean, this is absolutely fine. And if I'm honest, you could probably get all the way to Mastery 200 even just with this. So that is that. The Hugo Strange's specialization as our neck bomb. What is that? You guys, probably another relic from the past, right? So basically what this does, after afflicting 5 enemies with the same affliction, you are now immune to damage from enemies with that affliction for 20 seconds, all right? Obviously, burn. So you get up in the air, you literally burn the whole crowd. They're all poisoned. They're all taking that damage over time. They're taking more damage from your grenades. You're getting all sorts of bonuses. You're getting the scarecrow bonuses. You're getting all sorts of crap. You're getting the traversal, this, that, the other. And now, on top of all of that, those enemies cannot do any damage to you for 20 seconds. Extremely powerful. Again, massive defensive bonus, right? Which is extremely important in higher masteries. But wait, there's more. We get 2 active villain synergies. One of them doesn't actually matter. So one of them is the old one from last season. Because we have that Bane grenade, we get each time you craze an enemy, you get a damage increase 30 seconds. We're not actually crazing enemies, so this doesn't matter. But what we do get is this top one here. Every time you inflict 5 or more enemies with the same affliction, so same activation as its normal perk, you gain 20% affliction resource, which is your melee to actually apply the affliction. We don't use that too much because we can do it, but in a pinch, if we're out of grenades for whatever reason or out of traversal attack, in a pinch we can use that. But that's not why we're using it. We also deal 500% increased damage against enemies afflicted by that affliction for 20 seconds. So it's going to be burning enemies. So we apply burn all over the friggin' place. Those burning enemies are going to be taking 500% increased damage. They're also going to be taking a ton of extra damage because they're poisoned. That comes from the Scarecrow piece. That comes from the seasonal modifier. That comes from all sorts of things. They're going to be ticking away, and they're going to be taking a ton of damage from all sources, right? And all the while, they can't actually do damage to us, all right? So extremely powerful there. And then for the mods here, we just have more electric resistance. I'm using squad ultimate duration in the 2 slot here. I'll explain why in just a second, and then just more damage to burning enemies. And then coming down here, just filling out the 3 piece of the Scarecrow slot with the Phobophobia. We're using grenade pickup radius, more electrified resistance, and 10% squad ult resource from enemy kills. And I'll explain why those are all important. All right, so basically coming over to the talents tree, what really makes this build sing, and you can honestly just take a screenshot. I'll give you a second now. Let me actually move my webcam. Boom. I'll give you a second now to take a screenshot of this if you just want to copy it 1-to-1. But basically, we're just speccing into every little thing that gives burn, right? So you already saw, being up in the air gives your grenade burn. I already told you about the glitched perk down here that, is any crit with a weapon gives you burn on an enemy. And then, of course, the 30 combo, which this one you do have to be at 30 combo. I've tested it. But at 30 combo, your Razzle Dazzle burns everyone it hits, right? And like I said, that can hit pretty much the whole screen. So burn, 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 all burn. The other important thing to have here is this one right here, Ultimate Opening Gag. All right, so when Squad Ultimate is activated, you spawn 3 grenades right at your feet, and then you continue to spawn 1 every 5 seconds while the Squad Ultimate is active. All right, so we're going to want to be in Squad Ultimate quite a bit. All right, so that's why you might have thought it was weird. I use the Squad Ultimate duration here, right, which gives you essentially 20% more, so essentially a 5th more Squad Ultimate duration. And you get a good amount of grenades, right? You get enough grenades that you're going to be throwing them pretty much nonstop, because you get 3 right away, and then you get 1 every 5 seconds, which is a lot, especially with an extended duration. It's going to be even more grenades, right? Pair that with the fact that we get passively, you don't actually have to have the embraced the shape by terror to get this bonus. This happens right from the get, is your grenade capacity is increased by 2 always. Plus Joker has an extra grenade on his talent tree right here. Right here. So you're able to get 6 total grenades, which is absolutely insane. So you're going to be throwing grenades nonstop. They're going to be these Bane grenades that are going to cluster, and they're going to give you all your shield back. They're going to give you a ton of traversal back. You're going to be using your traversal even more, spreading more burn. The whole build just sings, if I'm being honest with you. So that's pretty much that. And then coming over to the squad skills, basically what we want, I have 10% electrified resistance just because I have max rolls on the 3 pieces. So I have 30%, which is the max, 20%, which is the max, and 40%, which is the max. That gets you up to 90. And then another 10% from the talent tree brings me to 100. All right, so that's why I have just 10 there. And then what you really want, so I've just got a couple, you really want to prioritize, first of all, let me just say, you really want to prioritize the perks that only have a 20-point investment in them rather than a 40, because you get more bang for your buck. So you'll notice here, like 20% crit hit chance, right? 20% damage to brutes, 20% damage to grunts becomes flat 20, right? Versus 20% more to burning enemies actually took 40 points to put in, right? So there's a difference. But you still want burning enemies, obviously. I use these 2 damage resistance. You don't have to use these. If you feel you're surviving enough, definitely cut these out for something else. I find that they're a pretty good investment, especially at the higher masteries. Traversal attack resource generation, another 20%, just makes it so that you're absolutely getting it back completely nonstop. Grenade ammo drop chance, because again, we're using grenades all the time. The more grenades, the better. We're honestly sometimes at such a flux with grenades. It's you almost don't even need this, but more grenades is just more grenades thrown, right? So it's just honestly more DPS. Of course, crit hit chance, and then grenade damage, right? So that's how I have it. And then even further past that, I would just go fully spec out this grenade damage. I would put a little more into the, where is it? The traversal attack damage. It's there somewhere. Traversal attack damage. And then I would go with these 2 here, right? Damage to Flash and damage to Batman. I would just alternate these until they're full. And then, from there, it's just, at that point, you're over squad level 300. So, I mean, you just put in whatever the hell you want and you'll be fine. But that's pretty much it. That is the build. Like I said, this build has been absolutely carrying. It's so smooth. It's so easy. And like I said, I've got some comments maybe for another video on the seasonal modifiers this season and how pigeonholed you are into using poison. I get that they want to switch things up, but I think it was a little too narrow. But you play the hand you're dealt, right? And if you really want to climb this season, you have to live with the fact that you must poison every enemy, right? And this build does that in spades, and it spreads a ton of damage all over the place. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave you guys with some gameplay. I think you're going to be a little shocked at just how quickly this build can just absolutely blow away mobs of enemies. That's it. I hope you enjoy. Let me know down in the comments how you're playing Joker. If you plan to play this, or you're playing maybe something similar, or even if you're playing something totally different, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Again, be sure to like the video. That really, really does help. And subscribe to the channel if you're new and you're interested in keeping up with some end game Suicide Squad content. But otherwise, that is it for me, guys. I'll leave you with some gameplay, and I'll see you in the next one.